We are live and recording.
She had I think she had a J-term trip to Vietnam. Oh, wow. Yeah, she's our big traveler.
Yeah.
All right. Let us please come to order. Welcome, everyone, to Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use and Public Hearing. It is 2:30, and will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, turning to the county attorney for certification of the agenda. Counselor.
The county attorney's office reviewed all items on the agenda, and where necessary, appropriate notice was given. Otherwise, you have jurisdiction over all matters.
Thank you, Counselor. Do commissioners have any disclosures for any items on this agenda today?
I have none, thank you.
I have none, thank you.
Nor do I. So getting into it, to our land use and public hearing. Item 2A is a resolution vacating the subdivision of Perry Park, filing number 7, lot number 1 through 5, block 3, Apache Court, and a portion of Apache Drive, and vacating the subdivision of Perry Park, filing G, filing 2, track G, and a portion of Apache Drive. Eric Pavlinik for the staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eric Pavlinik, representing Planning Services. The request is for approval of a plat vacation to remove 5 residential lots, 1 tract, platted easements, and segments of unused rights-of-way from Perry Park filings 2 and 7. The project number is SB 2020-028. The applicant and owner of the lots and tract is Winfield Enterprises Incorporated. The applicant representative here today is Michael McCormick. And as part of this request, as part of the presentation, I will also provide information on the special warranty deed, which is item 2B. The request is for approval of a plat vacation to remove 5 residential lots, 1 tract, platted easements, and segments of unused rights-of-way from Perry Park filings 2 and 7. The purpose of the plat vacation is to remove these lots, tract, and roads from the subdivision, and then merge the land area into adjacent large acreage property, which is also owned by the applicant. The intent of Article 7 is to provide, Article 7C is to provide a public hearing process for the vacation of a plat with existing infrastructure and/or public land dedication. The plat vacation process begins with the submittal of an application, following a review period by referral agencies and courtesy notices to abutting landowners. Public notice is given for a public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. As a result of the review process, the applicant has agreed to dedicate right-of-way and construct a cul-de-sac turnaround at the end of Apache Drive. The applicant has also provided easements to the Perry Park Water and Sanitation District and will convey land to the Perry Park Metro District following the plat vacation to allow for continued public access to community open space. As indicated by the red star, the subject site is located north of Apache Drive along the northwest edge of the Perry Park community. The parcels are in the northwestern portion of the Perry Park community, and all parcels are zoned suburban residential. When vacated, these parcels will be incorporated into adjacent A1 zone parcels owned by the applicant. This is an aerial view showing the project site in red. The 5 lots are identified here, the 1 tract, and portions of right-of-way here. The original plat for Perry Park was approved in 1968. Filings 2 and 7 were approved in 1969 and 1907 respectively. The 2 roadways to be vacated were created by plat and have not been developed or used as public roads. Instead of developing the 5 lots, the applicant intends to vacate the property and merge it into other property owned by the applicant. The next slide are some site photos. This is a view from Apache Drive looking east. This is a view from Apache Drive looking west into the site. And finally, a view from within the site looking southeast. This is the plat vacation exhibit showing the parcels tract and right-of-way to be vacated. This is a dedication exhibit showing the segment of right-of-way, which is approximately 11,500 square feet, for the cul-de-sac turnaround from Apache Drive. This will need to be accepted by the board immediately following acceptance of the plat vacation resolution, which is the proposed condition number 1 in the staff report. This is a list of the approval standard for a road vacation request, which are discussed in detail in the staff report. Staff has assessed the application in accordance with Article 7C of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the plat vacation are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in today's motion. Condition number 1, immediately following approval of the plat vacation resolution, the board shall accept the roadway dedication of approximately 11,500 square feet for right-of-way purposes. Condition number 2, prior to recordation of the road vacation, plat vacation resolution, all minor technical corrections shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 3, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 706C.04 sets forth the parameters for the board's determination of a plat vacation as noted on the slide. This concludes my presentation on the request. 2 motions are necessary from the board. The first motion would be made for the subdivision plat vacation, followed by a second motion on the special warranty deed for the cul-de-sac bulb. Staff is available for any questions at this time. Otherwise, the applicant's attorney, Michael McCormick, is here with an overview and to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, questions for staff from the board?
Eric, just a quick question. I know it's in the packet. What was the final planning commission vote on this?
Eric Pavitt for staff. This did not go to the Planning Commission, just went to the board hearing.
Directly to the board?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. And then one other question. In the referral comments, Larkspur had some issues. It said that those had been resolved. Have all of the objections from?
Yeah, I think most of the comments received from Larkspur Fire were related to the comments issued by the Perry Park Water and Sanitation District and the Perry Park Metro District, which were resolved by the applicant. They've been working with those districts for the past couple years now. And then the cul-de-sac bulb, will be constructed to county standards.
Okay, so they're no longer opposed?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Nor I. Mr. McCormick, would you like to approach and present to the board?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Is this okay if I stand here?
Please do.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. I represent the applicant Winfield Enterprises, Michael McCormick. So Winfield owns a ranch down next to Perry Park. It's a 400-acre ranch. And in about 2019, Winfield purchased 5 lots and a tract that were platted next to the ranch. And so Winfield's goal is to vacate the existing easements in those plats and then Initially, that was the initial application. There were objections filed by the Perry Park Water and Sanitation District, the Metro District, and some of the neighbors. And so Winfield diligently worked with each of those stakeholders and to resolve each of the objections. And in particular, one of the neighbors was a man named Mr. John Grosh. And so we reached a resolution to convey a 90-foot wide trail easement on the eastern side of the property to the Metro District. It'll actually be in fee, conveyance and fee to the Metro District on the eastern side of the project, so that the neighbors will have a nice easement going to open space to the north of the property. It really is a beautiful property. There's just gorgeous natural rock formations on the property. So I think this really makes sense. Winfield is not going to develop the property. There are actually still real covenants that will remain in place after the application that prohibit commercial development on there. So Winfield's basically just going to consolidate the property, fence it, and then it'll become essentially via deed, it'll become part of the ranch property to the west. I think this makes sense for the neighborhood. It makes sense for the county because the county doesn't have to do any fiscal expenditure. Winfield is committed to build the cul-de-sac. And it works for the neighbors because at the end of it, they have, in the before condition, there's a 15-foot wide trail easement. And we're actually going to convey a 90-foot wide trail easement to the neighbors. So it really is a win for the neighbors as well. You know, I know there have been concerns in that area about access to open space. You know, but I think this resolves that as well because there'll be access to that beautiful open space area to the north of the property. So in conclusion, we think that this is it's really a win-win for everyone involved, and we would appreciate your approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Questions from the board to the applicant?
I have no questions, thank you.
Me neither. Good to see you, Counselor. I have no questions.
I have no questions. I mean, this sounds like like you said, a win-win. So, no, sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead. Thank you, sir. You may step back. And at this time, are there any public comments on this matter before the board? Hey, but come on up, sir. But before we do that, hear from the public, need to ask the applicant, sir, there were 3 conditions as detailed in the staff presentation. Do you accept them all?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. And, sir, if you could please approach. Please give us your name and where you're from, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Alan Shane. I am the neighbor that is adjacent to the property that aligns with the McCormick offer of the 90-foot. We're basically in favor of the 90-foot easement, and we'd like to make sure that that is incorporated into this land swap that we're going through. And we'd also like to, and I think Mr. McCormick brought up the concept of a fence being brought up. We just wanted to make sure that the fence was not going to be smooth wire, but being the post fence. And he and I have been talking about fencing for quite some time, so I'm just making sure that the fencing is in agreement with the neighborhood. Does that make sense?
You bet, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public would like to speak on this matter? Come on forward.
My name is John Grosh, and I was one of the people who actually opposed this plat vacation originally on behalf of a number of the neighbors. I think I've been working with Michael McCormick for some time, and the neighbors, like 9 of the 10 closest neighbors to that location. And I think our concerns have been addressed by this plat vacation, so we still got access to our open space, and they get what they really want, which is contiguous property. The only thing that I would request that I didn't see in the documents, although I didn't read them exhaustively, the last section, is that we have had a security guard at the end of our street from the Winfield Enterprises for multiple years now. And we'd like to see that stop if possible, and also not have any access on that cul-de-sac, not have regular access going into their agricultural space from our street, because I would say roughly half of the traffic that we see on there is their security guard right now going up and down our street, which is a little bit intrusive on a residential neighborhood. So if there's any way we can have that cul-de-sac not have entrance other than for emergency purposes or something to that effect, that would be greatly appreciated by the neighbors. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter before the board? Come on forward, ma'am. And again, your name, and if you could tell us where you're from.
Beverly O'Donnell. I'm a neighbor on Apache. One of the concerns that has been brought up through this whole process that's been going on through the years is the signage that is apparent in other fencing that adjusts to this property. The other signage is in back roads where you don't really see it. There's signage and cameras and all that kind of thing. This is abutting to a residential area where we have homes, and we would request that the signage be minimal within the standards of what the county ordinances are, and not a bunch of them, and also that the cameras not be facing or looking at properties. We kind of like to do our own thing out there. Yeah.
Very well, ma'am. Do you have any further comments?
No, I was also originally against this, but it is nice that we are getting the 90-foot easement to access the open space, because without it, it would have just been dead land. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak on this matter? I'm seeing no one else in the room. Troy, do we have anyone online who would like to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Okay, let's go ahead. We had some things brought up by the members of the public. Eric, I wonder if you could help us out with a couple of these first. And then, Mr. McCormick, you're welcome to approach the podium again and deliver any answers as well. But Eric, so the 90-foot easement question was asked, is that included in this vacation?
It's not part, I mean, it's part of, it's not part of the vacation, I mean, it's separate, but the applicant has agreed to dedicate that to the district via a deed. We plan on recording them kind of together, that way they all happen. It's not, I mean, it's tied to the request, but it's a separate deed essentially.
Okay, so we would take action on this request for this request for vacation. However, the plan is to file the 90-foot easement as a deed.
Correct.
At the same time.
Yes.
Okay. The discrete answer for the citizen is no, it's not inherent to this agreement, but it is intended to be at the same time.
That's correct.
Simultaneous. And anything in this resolution for vacation deal with the matters we heard of composition of fencing, ending the security guard, any sort of signage on the property?
No, that's not tied to the resolution.
And we could ask, this is Jeanette Bear with Planning, we could ask Brad Jackson from Engineering to come up, but that is I believe it's a public cul-de-sac, so I'm not sure that we can necessarily restrict access, to the agricultural property from the end of the cul-de-sac, but maybe the applicant can address where it is they normally take access for the rest of the parcel, so. And maybe the applicant can address the other issues too, because I'm not sure what type of signage that's being discussed, if it's just no trespassing signage or what it is that is at issue.
Okay, well, let's, Mr. McCormick, you're welcome to come back up front. and speak to these matters that were brought up in public comment.
Thank you. So the first comment, I believe, was regarding the type of fence. Winfield intends to install a post and rail fence with wire screening. There are real covenants that will remain in place, and as part of that, the real covenants have a architectural control committee that is responsible for that area. We did submit the type of fence to the architectural control committee for approval, which did approve that type of fence in that area. My other comment would be that fence that will go in will actually be 90 feet to the west of the Shane property. So our hope is that it really won't be an issue for the Shane property. If there is a fence between the Shane property and the Metro District trail easement, that would really be a matter between Mr. Shane and the Metro District, if that makes sense, because they're going to be neighbors after the project if the county approves this. And of course, that will be in compliance with the Douglas County zoning code, which I believe basically just prohibits barbed wire, razor wire, things like that. So, and it will be in character with that area. The next concern was about a security guard. So yeah, unfortunately, the lot is vacant right now, and you know how vacant lots are. I mean, people a lot of times trespass on them. So, we have had concerns in the past with people trespassing on the lots, dumping trash in the lots, things like that. And so that's a reason we'd like for this application to go forward, is because we do intend to fence off the lots and fence the boundary lines. The only exception to that would be there is going to be a gate on the western side of the cul-de-sac for the Perry Park Water and Sanitation District, because they have an easement in there. So they'll have a gated access there that only they have access to, but the public won't have access to those lots after the project. So then, in terms of signage, certainly we do intend to comply with the county code. I think there's also, there may be provisions in the real covenants about signage, but we do intend to comply. I'm not really sure that is a county issue necessarily, except as it might be an issue under the zoning code. But I mean, certainly if there were any signage violations reported to the county, we would certainly address that. But we do intend to comply with both the real covenants and the county zoning code with respect to no trespassing signs. I've heard concerns raised about security cameras in the past, and frankly, I don't know why, because Winfield doesn't have any security cameras there. So I'm not sure if somebody else does, but they're not ours. So as far as we know, there aren't any security cameras on that property. In terms of the security guard presence, obviously, if we fence the property, we're hoping that those issues about trespass go dramatically down. So hopefully that won't be a concern. I'm not going to say we would never hire a security guard to be over there for some reason, but I would think once you fence it off, there's really not going to be nearly as much as an issue, because basically the only thing that'll be there is you leave the cul-de-sac and then you go onto the trail easement onto open space. So I just don't think there's going to be nearly as much of a concern about trespass or anything, which again is why I think this is good for the community for this to move forward. Just on a logistical note, I mean, I think there was a question about which comes first, the vacation or the dedication of the 90-foot trail easement. So I think that's probably an order of recording issue, but I think what'll happen is the plat vacation resolution would get recorded, and then after that would come the conveyance to the 90-foot to the Metro District of the 90-foot trail easement. So it would be first the whole thing gets vacated, then the 90 feet goes to the Metro District, if that makes sense.
You hit the items that were on my list, Mr. McCormick, so unless you want to say more.
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions from the board for staff or Mr. McCormick?
I don't have questions, I do have comments.
Very good. Commissioner Layden?
I have no questions.
Okay. Commissioner?
Thank you. As I was reading through this packet, I was struck by the differences that usually we hear cases where there is a large piece of property that is being subdivided, and we have a lot of people, a lot of neighbors saying they don't want that done. And here, when I started reading this is a piece where there's 5 parcels that are going to be pulled together and added to the Winfield Ranch. And then I thought, there's still people that are complaining. I then read through, and I thought that Randy Laiku, if I'm saying her name right, you know, she wrote this statement that said, here I am trying to preserve this land forever as open space. And I have no ulterior motives. I'm not going to put any towers on it. She has a business with, I guess, internet. But in the end, what I was struck with was, and what I wrote down in my notes, is there was really good cooperation, that it looked like there was give and take, that there was land added to this trail, so now it's 90 feet wide, so that people can still access the open space. And it just seemed like to me that it came to a nice ending, and I am supportive of what I read. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. How would the board like to proceed with this resolution?
So I'm pleased to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve a resolution vacating the subdivision of Perry Park, filing 7, lots 1 through 5 of Block 3, Apache Court, and a portion of Apache Drive, and vacating the subdivision of Perry Park, filing 2, Tract G, and a portion of Apache Drive, because it does meet all of the approval criteria with the 3 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2020-028.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and the resolution is approved. Please let your clients know. Congratulations, and thank you all. How would the board like to handle the associated special warranty deed?
I have a motion to approve a special warranty deed for Apache Drive, Douglas County Project File DV 2020-065.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and it is approved. Moving on to, and thank you all, appreciate it, and thank you for the residents who came to speak on the matter very much. Moving on to item 2C, which is reunion at Inverness Plan Development, First Amendment, Major PD Amendment, let me get my, and Eric, it says you're up again.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Eric Pavlik, representing Planning Services. The request is a major amendment to the reunion at Inverness PD. The project number is ZR 2023-022. Tommy Punciano of Local Homes is here as the applicant. Local Homes requests a major PD amendment to establish residential setbacks and amend guest parking standards in PA1 of their PD. The intent of the major PD amendment process is to encourage innovative and creative design and to facilitate a mix of use in the development of a fair and balanced community, including residential, business, commercial, recreational, open and other selected secondary uses in accordance with Section 2467-101, Colorado statutes, as noted on the slide. The major PD amendment process begins with the submittal of an application, following a review period by referral agencies and the public. Notice is given for the public hearing before the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. No adjacent property owners or members of the public commented on the request, and the applicant has addressed the referral agency comments. The Planning Commission heard the proposal at a public hearing on February 26, 2024, and unanimously recommended approval of the request by a vote of 6-0, with the one condition proposed by staff. No adjacent property owners or members of the public commented on the request. As indicated by the red star, the site is in the northern portion of the county, located north of East 470, east of I-25, and south of County Line Road. The PD outlined in red is within the Inverness Business Park, which is adjacent to the intersection of Inverness Parkway and Inverness Drive South. As shown on the aerial, the PD is partially built out with a rehab hospital in the southern end of the PD. As background, the reunion at Inverness PD was approved by the board in June of 2023. The original PD did not include development standards for single-family attached residential lots. Concurrent administrative replat and SIP have been submitted and are being reviewed. The applicant requests a major amendment to the reunion at Inverness PD to establish setbacks specific to single-family attached residential lots for townhomes. The setbacks for townhomes will be 5 feet from the front lot lines and 2 feet from the rear lot lines, while no setback from the side lot lines. The proposed amendment also increases the guest parking standard from 0.25 spaces per unit to 0.50 spaces per unit. Following are some site photos. This is a view from the northern property line looking southeast. As indicated earlier, there's a rehab hospital to the south. This is a view from the adjacent property looking kind of east. And finally, from the same location looking south. The approval standard for major PD amendment requests are set forth in section 15 and listed on the slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standard are discussed in detail in the staff report. Section 1522.08 sets forth the parameters for the board's determination of a major PD amendment, as noted on the slide. Staff has evaluated the major PD amendment request in accordance with Section 15 of the zoning resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards have been met, staff proposes the following 2 conditions to be included in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation, all minor technical corrections will be made to the plan development document to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 2, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is a condition upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to take any questions at this time. Otherwise, Tony Punciano of Local Homes is here if you have any questions.
Questions from the board for staff?
I have read the packet. I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Nor I. Would the applicant like to come forward and speak and make presentation to the board?
Good afternoon. Tommy Pucciano with Local Homes. So as you know, this PD amendment's the first step in our process. We'll also be processing a replat and an SIP. The biggest effort here is this piece was intended for rent apartment project, and we're intending to do for sale townhomes. So we had to rezone to establish smaller setbacks. Since we're doing fee simple lots, we're creating smaller lots for each of those townhomes. So a 25-foot setback on a small fee simple lot obviously just would not work on this 2.8 acre piece of property. So we're going to keep the setbacks around the perimeter that are established by the PD as they currently stand, but on the individual townhome lots, we're creating smaller setbacks, and that was the goal of this PD amendment. So it allows us to create 35 individual fee simple lots and then do for sale townhomes as a result.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pucciano. Questions from the board for the applicant?
I have none.
I have none.
All right. Nor do I, except for one. Mr. Pucciano, there are two conditions as presented by staff. Do you need to see them again, or are you willing to agree to them now?
I agree.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. You can step back, and let's go ahead and open up for public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward and speak on this matter before the board? And seeing none in the room. Troy, do we have anybody who would like to make public comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. What is the pleasure of the board on this major PD amendment?
I would just like to make a quick comment.
Please.
When I started reading the packet and I saw that you were changing this from a rental property into a for ownership property, I thought that was really a good move for our county housing situation. We know that you can't go out in today's market and buy a single-family house unless you have some kind of wealth from somewhere else. Where the normal way it works is that you buy a condo or a townhouse, and then you get some equity in it, and then you're able to step up and buy a larger property with more room, maybe a backyard. And so, we just haven't seen a lot of these going in, and I'd like to thank your corporation or your LLC or whatever you are for doing this. I think there are a lot of young families and maybe even older people that want to step down from their big house to something smaller that will have an opportunity. So I really appreciate the overall ability for our home buyers to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Commissioner Layden.
Yeah, I would agree. Just from a general public policy theme, opportunities for condominium conversions and for, families that serve our community, law enforcement, teachers, hospitality, to be able to live where they work. That's a traffic solution, and it's also an economic viability solution that provides, early income earners the opportunity to invest and save and grow their wealth, which we certainly appreciate. I just wanted to confirm we got the three conditions accepted. So.
Conditions as presented were accepted.
The two conditions. Is it two or is it three?
I had two.
Two, okay. If there isn't further discussion from the board, I will, Mr. Chair, be willing to make a motion to approve Reunion at Inverness Plan Development First Amendment Major PD Amendment because it does meet all of the approval criteria with the two conditions as presented. Project file ZR 2023-022.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. I'm going to speak in favor of the motion. I think this is great. I really appreciate you putting this up on the market. I mean, I think the market's going to be responsive. Everywhere else we see for sale, higher density properties, the market is usually very responsive in a very positive way. So I wish you the best of luck. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is approved. Unanimous. Congratulations. Moving along to, our final agenda item for the day, 2D, which is Sterling Ranch filing 6A, First Amendment, minor development, project file SB 2023-060. Mr. Brett Thomas presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Thomas representing Planning Services. Project before you is Sterling Ranch filing 6A First Amendment, project number SB 2023-060. Sterling Ranch LLC is the owner, and Sterling Ranch Development Company is the applicant representative. The applicant is requesting approval of a minor development final plat for one superblock lot to accommodate up to 450 multifamily units and 10,000 square feet of retail space on 12.69 acres within the Sterling Ranch PD. The intent of the minor development process is to provide a streamlined review process for non-residential and multifamily subdivisions. Minor development process begins with submittal of an application. Following a review period by referral agencies and the public, there are public hearings before the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. Referral agency comments are outlined in the referral agency response report, as well as the referral response letters attached to the staff report. Public correspondence received is also attached to the staff report. Residents within Sterling Ranch neighborhoods expressed concerns with density of the proposed development, visual and traffic impacts, and amount of park and school facilities within Sterling Ranch. A letter of support was submitted from Lockheed Martin, citing the need for housing and opportunity for increased retail options. The applicant held 3 community meetings in February to discuss the project with residents. The applicant's response to referral agency comments and public correspondence is also attached to the staff report. The Planning Commission heard the proposal at a public hearing on February 26th. There were 29 members of the public who spoke in opposition to the application. Most residents indicated they are not opposed to multifamily and mixed use, however stated the request for 450 units is excessive. Residents cited concerns with traffic, parking, lighting, and shadows cast by buildings. The applicant responded that the request meets the approval standards and that a site improvement plan process will follow to address impacts noted by the community. The applicant committed to a minimum of 3 community meetings during the SIP process and to work with residents on the density, building heights, and design of any future multifamily on the site. Planning Commission asked follow-up questions of the applicant about traffic, water supply, changes to the plans, balancing competing values of the 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan, and how it will ensure there are ongoing communication efforts with the community. Planning Commission asked clarifying questions. Planning Commission recommended approval of the request 6-0 with 3 conditions recommended by staff. Site is located in the northwest part of the county within Sterling Ranch Development. Site is located north of Waterton Road, west of its intersection with Eagle River Street. To the north of the site are single-family residences that were platted with filing 4B. East of the site is a vacant superblock lot with filing 6A for future development, including residential or commercial uses. To the south, across Waterton Road, are single-family residences within filing 6A. And to the west is an open space tract within filing 6A that includes a segment of regional trail. The site was rezoned from Agricultural 1 to Planned Development with approval of the Sterling Ranch PD by the board in July of 2013. In 2021, the board approved the amended and restated Sterling Ranch water appeal, which among other changes allowed the CAB to propose alternate minimum water demand standards as part of future development applications. Filing 6A was approved by the board in August of 2021 and consisted of 228 residential lots, 4 superblock lots, 12 tracks, and associated public roads and private alleys. This application is a minor development final plat for Lot 231 of Sterling Ranch Filing 6A. Lot 231 was platted as a superblock lot with a note requiring additional subdivision approvals, including a determination of water supply adequacy and required transportation improvements prior to issuance of any building permit for occupiable structures within this lot. With the current minor development plat request, the applicant has proposed up to 450 multifamily units and 10,000 square feet of retail space. A site improvement plan application for a specific development proposal on this lot is required prior to development of multifamily or commercial uses. A site improvement plan has not yet been submitted. Water supplies for filings 1 through 7 are provided through intergovernmental agreements with City of Aurora and Town of Castle Rock, including renewable and South Metro Wise Authority water, as well as Denver Basin groundwater rights associated with Cherokee Ranch. Those supplies were evaluated and found to meet applicable approval criteria at the time of preliminary plan 7. No change to the previously approved water supply is proposed with this application. Both the state engineer and county's water consultant have found the proposed water supply to be adequate to serve future development associated with this plat. This is a view looking northwest across the site from Waterton Road. This is a view from Big Thompson Street looking east into the site towards Eagle River Street. These are the approval standards applicable to a minor development final plat, which are discussed in detail in the staff report. In addition, the water appeal approval standards apply to this application. Detailed assessment of the project's compliance with all standards is included in the staff report. Should the board find that the approval standards for the minor development final plat are met, following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation of the final plat, technical corrections to the final plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition number 2, prior to approval of the site improvement plan, the applicant shall provide payment in the amount of $750 per multifamily dwelling unit to the Douglas County School District for capital mitigation. Condition number 3, prior to approval of the site improvement plan, The applicant shall provide payment to Douglas County for the pro rata share costs towards improvements to the state highway system in accordance with commitments set forth in the Sterling Ranch PD. And condition number 4, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 604A.08 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's determination on minor development requests as noted on this slide. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to take questions at this time. Otherwise, Susan Beckman with Sterling Ranch Development is prepared to make a presentation.
All right, questions from the board for Mr. Thomas?
I have a few, but I will suspend those questions so I can hear from the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
I will wait as well.
Okay. Hey, me too. So it looks like Commissioner Beckman is standing up and approaching the podium to present on behalf of the applicant.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Susan Beckman. I'm here today on behalf of Sterling Ranch Development Company. My last name is spelled Beckman. We are located at 8155 Piney River Avenue, Sterling Ranch, Colorado, 80125. Thank you, Chairman Teal and Commissioners, for your consideration for this land use application today, and thank you for your community service. I also want to thank the Douglas County Planning Staff, Public Works and Engineering for their professionalisms and their public service. As it is our custom, the Sterling Ranch Development Company brings along all our team and our partners to the Board of County Commissioners meetings. We feel that it is important that you have your concerns and questions answered in a very detailed, technical manner and in a timely manner. So I'd like to just introduce our team that we have. Of course, we have Brock Smethels with us today, who is the president of Sterling Ranch Development Company, Kevin Jonk, Director of Engineering and Entitlement Associate from Sterling Ranch Development Company, and Charlie Smith, for Charlie, Attorney Brownstein, Hyatt, Faber, and Schreck. We also have with us today Cassie Slade, Traffic Engineer from Fox Tuttle Transportation Group, Caitlin Sheehan, Professional Engineer, Kimley Horn, Curtis Davidson, Landscape Architect, PCS Group. I think you know where Sterling Ranch is, northwestern part of Douglas County. I'd like to just give you a little bit of an update on where we are. Sterling Ranch has been the #1 best-selling master plan community in the metro area for the last 4 years. Our current development, as you know, was unanimously approved in 2011 and reaffirmed in 2013, again by the Board of County Commissioners, as a planned development with a maximum density of 12,050 homes, and we are in the Chatfield urban area. Our planning footprint includes 3,400 total acres with an anticipated 1,300 acres of open space and parks at full build-out and 30 miles of interconnected trails. Currently, we have 2,200 occupied homes. We have a diverse housing stock, single-family, multifamily apartments. We have a lot of townhomes and multi-generational homes. Today, we are at a 18% of total build-out. Full build-out of Sterling Ranch will be in approximately 20 years. I'd like to point out this slide because this lot has a lot of history. In 2017, filing 4B was approved. 4B is north of, it's right there, north of Lot 231. At that time, 231 was reserved for future retail and multifamily. In 2021, Preliminary Plan 6 was approved unanimously by the Board of County Commissioners. During that approval process, Lot 231 was identified for future development of multifamily apartments and mixed use. So the red is preliminary Plan 6. Later that year, 6A final plat, outlined in blue, was approved by Douglas County Commissioners. Again, Lot 231 was reserved for multifamily apartments and/or mixed use. So Lot 231 is in the green. It's approximately 12.7 acres. For the rest of today's presentation, I'll just be referring to the 6th Amendment. 6A, First Amendment is Lot 231. It's a more descriptive name. From the Douglas County Staff Report on page 2, this lot falls within the C5 character zone designated, in which multifamily and commercial uses are principal uses by right. And we are not asking for any additional density today. The minor development plat, as you know, is the first step of a two-step process. It is needed primarily to bring water. We're asking for a commitment of 70 acre-feet a year for Lot 231. The MDP approval criteria will also look at lot configuration, it's one lot, transportation access, and services provided. So we'll talk about those today. This is our plat submittal, Lot 231. That's why we're here today. The Douglas County road network surrounding this lot have already been developed, anticipating the traffic trips for a multifamily, retail, commercial, mixed-use development. So on the north, we have Big Thompson. On the east, we have Eagle River, Waterton Road. I'm sure you're all familiar with Waterton Road to the south. And then to the southeast or southwest is a 2-acre tract with a trail going through that. That trail connects to the rest of the trail network at Sterling Ranch. Once a minor development plat is approved, a private sector developer will submit a site improvement plan application that will be processed through Douglas County Planning and Engineering and also through the Sterling Ranch Design Review Committee. The site improvement plan process, as you know, will look at the guidelines and standards of both organizations that need to be met. Those will include construction and engineering drawings, setbacks, building heights, traffic circulation. They may ask for a shadow study, parking, drainage, noise, landscaping, environmental issues, and they'll look at a materials sample board. The site plan is not what we're going to be talking about today, but because I know you read your packets and look at your packets, there were a lot of comments about site improvement plan issues. We had a site plan that was pre-submitted, and we are no longer working with that developer. And so, but it was pre-submitted, and it caused a lot of questions and some real concerns from the community. But I wanted to show you some pictures of the Alliance Broadstone apartments that we are currently building in Sterling Ranch and the Sterling Center to show the high quality of development that will happen through your own site improvement plan process. So we're not going to get into final design today on this project because we do not have a site plan, and it is not in the MDP criteria, and at this point it would all be speculation. Lot 231 was always going to be multifamily apartments. Sterling Ranch is an urban mixed-use master plan development, and we need homes for our workforce to live. But for clarity, I would just like to talk a little bit about disclosures, because I know there was a lot of concerns in your packet about this becoming a multifamily apartment site. To ensure that prospective buyers were informed, multifamily disclosures were recorded on title for each lot adjacent to the site. These disclosures show up on the title report. So anything in turquoise or green, all of these filings have had these disclosures. Also, Also on every lot in Sterling Ranch, there are view disclosures that are recorded on title. The disclosure states that as the community develops, all views will be changed due to just normal development activity. While these disclosures do not change the concerns of homeowners, and we're committed to continue to work with them, we have been very, very transparent in talking about what this lot would be. In fact, prior to the building of any single-family home directly adjacent to Lot 231, large blue 4x8 signs were posted on the property indicating plans for future multifamily and mixed use and also retail use. But back to step one, because we're here for the MDP. I know you had a lot of comments, and I just wanted to clarify some things. Before we moved into, the most important thing that we're doing today is the MDP, and with the MDP, we're requesting a commitment of 70 acre-feet per year for Lot 231 be approved. So I'd like to walk through the requirements and the goal and the approval criteria for approving an MDP. 60301 complies with the comprehensive master plan. We propose urban development within the Chatfield urban area with the development of Lot 231. This development would integrate site and architectural variety and provide housing choices in neighborhood design. It would encourage mixed-use residential densities to create diversity of housing types, sizes, and price range. From the Douglas County Staff Report, page 11, the minor development final plat application is consistent on balance with the goals and objectives of the 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan for Urban Development. Approval criteria 60302, Lot 231 meets all the required design standards. It has safe and convenient vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle connections, connectivity of infrastructure. The roads are designed for multifamily and commercial uses. So on this map illustration, I'd like to point out, of course, you know Lot 231, but there are 3 other lots connected to this Ascent Village. We have Lot 232 and Lot 229 and 230. So we're really looking at 4 lots, but today we're just looking at Lot 231 that is central to this area, the Ascent Village. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was understanding that there are opportunities for retail, commercial, and other amenities within this 4-lot block. Oh, and I'd also like to point out that Lot 231 is not infill development, and it is not redevelopment. It has always been set aside for multifamily apartments, and it's always been in our master plan. So the most important aspect today for the MDP is to secure water to the site. Sterling Ranch has requested from Dominion Water and Sanitation 70 acre-feet a year for Lot 231. That 70 acre-feet will serve boutique retail and multifamily. It would also serve big box retail and multifamily on this site. I've requested 450 units, but it can be used for, if the unit density goes down, the commercial square footage can go up. But today, for the lot, we need 70 acre-feet per year. In your water packet submittal, there is a wholesale water and wastewater cumulative service commitment letter from Dominion Water and Sanitation District. They are our wholesale water provider for Sterling Ranch. And a will-serve letter from Sterling Ranch Community Authority Board. The CAB is the retail water provider for the Sterling Ranch development. And the referral response from the Colorado Division of Water Resource confirms that Dominion has the appropriate water supply for Lot 231 and it states that the water required annually to serve this lot is currently physically available. Two sanitary stubs have been provided along Big Thompson Street for Lot 231. Wastewater treatment will be provided by Dominion via Roxborough conveyance infrastructure to the Littleton Inglewood Reclamation Facility for treatment. And in the future, that treatment will happen at the Chatfield Basin Water Reclamation Facility. Approval standard 60304. Oh, we did that one. 60305. Identifies all areas that involve soil conditions requiring special precautions. A geotechnical site development study provided by A.G. Wassenaar for this site determined that soils and subsurface conditions did not preclude development of this site. Approval criteria 60306 provides adequate drainage improvements. Lot 231 will be served by existing downstream detention and water quality facilities that were designed to support the future development of this site for multifamily and retail or commercial. Approval criteria 60307 provides adequate transportation improvements. As you all know, Sterling Ranch has made significant regional improvements related to safety and capacity, and they include Titan Road, Waterton Road, Rampart Range Road, and Highway 85 to support the development of this lot. Sterling Ranch has also contributed $10.5 million in regional transportation highway fees that are helping Douglas County pay for the current improvements underway on Santa Fe, which is really a great project. And kudos to the commissioners for having that area opened up 24 hours in advance. That was really good management of that project. Approval criteria 60307. Let's continue to talk about roads and our internal roads. The internal road system for 231 is already built. It's not something that we have to go in and develop. And it is designed for multifamily and commercial development. So I'd like to just point out the access to the site. We have Waterton Road at Eagle River. This will remain a full movement side street stop control intersection. Then Waterton Road. This will be a 3/4 movement, left in, right out, and side street stop control. This 3/4 of a movement was recommended by Douglas County Engineering, and we enthusiastically support the recommendation because it will significantly take traffic off Big Thompson and Eagle River, and it will allow for really great circulation into the site. Eagle River Street access. A newly proposed access will be right in and right out, and a side street stop control there. And then Big Thompson Street at Anima Street right here. A full movement intersection will be there, and this is the type of intersection that has always been recommended by South Metro Fire. They need a full access intersection for their apparatus devices and their trucks. They need this, and they've always recommended it, so we will support that. (60308) in your approval criteria protects archaeological and historic resources. ERO Resources Corporations prepared a cultural resource survey and recommended a determination of no historic properties will be adversely affected. And that, of course, is our archaeological dig. I think many of you were out there on site at Scott Springs last year, so there's just a picture of people doing some archaeological digging. But nothing is on this site, so that's good. Approval criteria 60310 provides necessary services. School. Douglas County School District has reviewed this application and is supportive. With our approved zoning, Sterling Ranch has agreed that for multifamily units, we will pay a mitigation fee of $750 per unit. We also pay this fee on single-family homes. To date, Sterling Ranch has paid over $4.6 million toward capital impact costs for schools that are being utilized by students that live in Sterling Ranch. Sterling Ranch has identified 3 school sites that the school has approved. We want schools, but at 18% build out, as reflected in the staff report and in the Douglas County School District website, Douglas County School District has the capacity in various Roxborough and Highlands Ranch schools for Sterling Ranch students to attend. And even though there is no land dedication requirement for parks with this MDP, I wanted to share this slide. It was the park exhibit for preliminary plan 6. It shows 73 acres of open preserve, park area, and open space that were preserved within the preliminary plan that lot 231 was included in. So the dark green on this exhibit shows 6 acres of neighborhood parks that are currently being built and designed. We've just got approval from the Planning Commission for location and extent in these 2 parks, and this park is being designed. So they're going to be built. One of them is, 2 of them are currently being built. Lot 231 is surrounded by a wildlife corridor, the Sterling Gulch corridor, and also by a regional trail system on the other side. So as you know, a minor development final plat may be approved if you meet the following criteria. And I would like to just take a moment to review the criteria. We've gone through it on the slide deck, but I'd just like to review it. The 6A First Amendment Lot 231 meets all the criteria. 60301 complies with the goals and objectives and policies of the 2040 Comprehensive Master Plan. Specifically, we are building urban development in the Chatfield urban area. 60302, we addressed all the design elements in Article 4. We went through that in the presentation. 60303, the water supply for Lot 231 will be provided by the Sterling Ranch Community Authority Board through an agreement with Denver Water and Sanitation District. 60304 complies with state and local laws to provide wastewater collection and treatment. I think there's a positive letter of support from your Department of Health about our wastewater treatment in your packet. 60305, there are no soil conditions requiring special precautions in Lot 231. And 60306 provides adequate drainage improvements. 60307 provides adequate transportation improvements. 60308, we protect archaeological historical resources. 60309, this is kind of an outdated one, but we did all the documentation. We demonstrate that extraction of any known commercial and mining deposits shall not be impeded, and they are not in this development. And then, of course, 60310, we have all the necessary available services. Fire services will be provided by South Metro Fire. Douglas County Sheriff's Office will provide police protection. Excel will provide gas and electric services. Telecommunication services will be provided by Lumiere Fiber. And we had talked about schools and parks that are being provided to this MDP. I know you have seen the letters that came when we did the referral. We've had 3 neighborhood meetings. We've done a lot of discussion with the community, and we are not done discussing with the community. We will continue to meet with them and make sure that their concerns are heard. So thank you Chairman Teal and Commissioners, for your consideration, I would ask for your support of this minor development plat.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. There were 4 conditions presented in the staff report. Does the applicant agree to those conditions?
Yes, we agree to those 4 conditions.
Very good. Questions from the board for applicant and staff?
Well, I have a couple of questions, and first and foremost, thank you to Sterling Ranch and Ms. Beckman for the remarkable presentation. Certainly always exciting to see positive new development that may serve the needs of our community. I made some comments earlier about the need for a diverse housing stock and meet the affordability needs that we're hearing not only in Douglas County but statewide, and no doubt this accomplishes much of that. I might ask, so Brett, if you and Jeanette can pull up the approval criteria with the design standards. Great. So looking through this, a couple of questions. I know we received a letter from a citizen walking through some of the concerns about density, parking, things of that nature. I'm thinking a little bit about 603.07 with regard to transportation improvements. And I know Cassidy is here and others. I don't know if you can speak to those transportation improvements when it relates to parking, specifically when there are visitors. Obviously, we're not only contemplating the residents of this new community, but what that would look like for visitors.
Oh,
Yeah.
Commissioner Layden, I'll start out, and then if we need to have our consultants come up. The roads around Lot 231 were designed for this type of density and can handle this type of density. As far as parking concerns, parking is something that is evaluated through the site improvement plan, because we don't know how many units we're going to have. We don't know what the percentage of commercial will be at this time, and so that will be a separate process. But as you know, our roads around this area have adequate street parking if there is a need, but most of these developers try to do parking internally. So let
And I
me check
appreciate
with
that.
I'll
Yeah.
do a lifeline here to make sure that I've answered it appropriately and comprehensively. If you
Sure.
just give me a minute, Commissioner.
And while we're waiting for staff, just want to confirm that 60307 contemplates transportation improvements that might inherit parking or at least parking services.
Well, I think it does. Certainly, we're looking at the surrounding roadway network and looking at trip generation and things like that when we're looking at plats. When it comes to parking, it really comes down to the site improvement plan, and when we're looking at apartments in particular in Sterling Ranch or elsewhere, we do talk to applicants about providing sufficient parking for not just the residents but guests as part of their projects. In Sterling Ranch, there is the ability to use some on-street parking to satisfy some of those requirements, but people do like to park on site if they possibly can, and guests as well. So that's something that we look at quite heavily when we review the site plan. But for the plat, we're looking primarily, I think, at the sufficiency of the roadway network, trip generation rates for the kind of the worst case scenario of development on this lot.
Yeah. So let me reframe my question for the purposes of the minor development versus the site improvement plan, and would just replicate Jeanette's comments around trip generation that might be part of the plan development.
Yes, Commissioner, I'm going to bring up Cassie Slade from Fox Tuttle to talk about what we have in the existing streets around Lot 231 as far as capacity.
Great.
Hi, Commissioner. Cassie Slade with Fox Tuttle Transportation Group. Last name is SLADE. 1580 Logan Street, 6th floor, Denver, 80203. Great question about that. So we, in the MDP, we updated the trip generation for the latest kind of maximum amount of multifamily and retail. So that's about overall from just this one lot is about 2,500 vehicles per day. That is down by over 1,200 than what was assumed in the preliminary plan, because there was a higher density.
Down by 1,200.
Went down by 1,200.
Okay, great.
Also, with working with the county and getting the left turn off of Waterton Road, the traffic on Big Thompson was also reduced because we are now able to capture some of that traffic off of Waterton coming from the west, when before they had to go all the way up into Big Thompson to get into the site. And so on Big Thompson as well, we've been looking at the estimate volumes on there. Before we were a lot closer to about 2,800. We are now down to 1,900 on Big Thompson, and it is built to handle more than what is being predicted at the full build out of 6.
That's great. And let me just ask staff, can you confirm what was represented by the consultant?
Pull up the engineers.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brad Jackson with Douglas County Engineering. I can confirm everything that the applicant has said, and the county is agreeable to the traffic study that was provided for the MDP application.
Great. Thank you, Cassie, and thank you to staff. So, Ms. Beckman, I think another question I might have is with regard to comments we received about the character zone. So one of the items that was referenced was the pre-submittal review that indicated the C5 character zone contemplated 15 dwelling units per acre. So are we exceeding the character zone at this point?
Thank you, Commissioner Layden. No, we are not exceeding the character zone. We are in compliance with the neighborhood plan, and that area has been designated C5. We have additional density for that area, and as you know, with our character zones, it is not per acre, but it is an equation that takes into account all of the area, and then it is divided, all the population of that area, and it's divided, and we are at about 11 units per acre on that site plan, with the old site plan. Now, we're going to be seeing another site plan, but their staff never allows us to go over our density, and so we have enough available C5 area. And I have, actually, I brought a thumb drive. Can you use that to explain that? If you'd like that, would you like to understand the character zones a little bit more?
No, I understand. I understand character zones. I might just ask staff. So I think it's part of the commentary that we got from the citizens, and one of the comments was that the maximum allowable units should be approximately 189, and the assertion is that the units should be reduced from over 400 to a number approximately to 189. So if you just want to respond to that, I think I get it, but if you want to respond to that for the public.
Yeah, and as Brett Thomas for planning, as Susan was describing, the character zone C5, I believe, is 110 acres in the neighborhood plan. The 15 units per acre, so it allows approximately 1,660 units, I believe, overall of C5. That also includes acreage from right-of-way, open space, and then there's also super block lots that haven't been developed yet that could be commercial or other uses that don't use residential density. So even with a maximum 450 units on this site, it would comply with the PD.
Okay, I just want to get that on the record that does comply with the character zone. Another question that was raised was about the height of the buildings, and again, it goes to that C5 character zone. Does staff want to ring in on that as well in terms of, I mean, the assertion is that the proposed 5-story building must be disallowed on the grounds that the C5 character zone prohibits it. What's the response from staff?
The maximum building height in C5 is 4 stories.
Okay, yeah.
What happened is with the pre-submittal meeting from the builder, they listed it as 4/5 stories. 5 stories would not be allowed. The PD does allow for 4-story. It does not count, it makes exceptions for tuck under parking, walkouts, things like that. So we didn't see a design with the pre-submittal to show what the elevation would look like, but it's possible it could be a 4-story with tuck under parking or something like that, which residents might read as a 5-story, but per the PD would be a 4-story.
Still complies with the PD and the pre-submittal. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Commissioner Thomas, questions for applicant and staff?
Thank you. Ms. Beckman, thank you for your presentation. This question is for staff, and usually I write down the page number where I find this, and I miss doing that. But I wrote down that originally this was 250 units, and now it's 450 units, yet the traffic, Cassie just said that this is a decrease in the number of units. So can you straighten that out for me, please?
Yeah, the number that you're referencing was with the traffic study that was prepared with the preliminary plan, which I don't recall exactly, but I think was 220 units. But it also included up to like 25,000 square feet for grocery store and other uses, with those uses being not proposed with this most recent traffic study. The number of trips associated with a potential grocery store, if you convert that to residential, that's how the decrease in the numbers. So the number of units went up, but the number of non-residential square footage went down significantly.
Okay, so my question is, was this originally stated for 250 units and now it's 450 units?
That was an estimate in the traffic study at the time of preliminary plan versus with the minor development.
Okay. Susan?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Thomas. With our traffic studies, we always have our traffic consultant look at the highest, most impactful use, which would be a big box store. That lot could have a big box grocery store on it, and those are very impactful on number of vehicles per day. We want to make sure that the roads around that lot are built at the appropriate capacity. And I think it would be good to have, if you don't mind, I would like to bring up Cassie Slade to talk about how she came up with those assumptions.
That would be fine. Just so everybody's clear, my question was, somewhere in the packet I wrote down that this was supposed to be 250 units, and now it's 450 units. So has that, is that a change that's being requested in this packet?
Commissioner Thomas, it was never going to be 285 units. It was 285. It was asking our traffic consultant to make sure that this could be apartments and big box retail, a grocery store, gas stations, highly impact, or apartments and boutique retail, which is much less impactful. And that are the kind of guidelines we always try to do, what would be the most impactful. And the most impactful is not 450 units. It would be a big box grocery store and units. And so for a traffic study that was just making sure that we would have the appropriate roads built, that is what the direction is always. So I'm going to bring up Cassie to talk about how she came up with those numbers.
Great question, Commissioner Thomas. So Susan's exactly right. The traffic study is not it's not a land plan, and it's not this is exactly what's going on here. We work with the staff to understand what assumptions have to go on here so that we are ensuring that we are building all infrastructure to handle what is possible. So yes, at the time of the preliminary plan 6, we did look at the 285 multifamily with, I think it was a total of like 27,000 square feet of retail. And again, it's to make sure that, Big Thompson, Eagle River, Waterton Road have the capacity to handle those trips that are associated with this lot. That ends up kind of being our maximum for that space. And then when we've come back here, we're saying, okay, we don't want to go above that because we know the roads are already built. And so we need to check in with what the latest and greatest is of the mix of commercial and residential and make sure that it's under that. And so because commercial is a very intense trip distribution, especially a grocery store, as we all know, when you replace that with homes, the trip rate goes significantly down because it just doesn't have the same commercial draw and a bigger audience of drivers. Does that help?
Thank you. That's somewhere I wrote down it was going from 250 to 450, and I'm trying to find out where that is, so thank you.
Commissioner Thomas, this is Brock Smethels, SME THILLS with Sterling Ranch Development Company. So At the time, I was here in 2018 when we platted filing 4B, which was the first plat adjacent to the site. And at the time, Douglas County staff wanted to ensure that there was adequate roadway capacity for future uses on the site. In fact, the site, though, however, was platted as a single unit at that time, and the uses that were assigned for transportation purposes only was 280 apartment units and 30,000-ish square feet of retail. And so what happened is the retail went down, the multifamily units went up, but we made no commitments that that was what was going to be designed at that point. In fact, it's currently platted as a single residential unit. And staff can jump in on that as well, but this is the same exact process, the same exact minor development plat that was used for the existing apartments in Prospect Village in filing 3A. So we have not changed anything. What typically happens is staff wants to make sure, again, that we're not boxed in the future and that we have adequate roadway capacity. And in fact, the road trips went down with this change. So hopefully that answers the question.
And so just so I'm clear, you have not submitted your SIP. It sounded like you did, but you've changed who you were working with. So now
we're not apartment developers, so we will sell this site for this maximum density. A apartment developer, Avalon Bay, submitted a pre-submittal site plan that has not been formally submitted. And that is what a lot of the residents reacted to, both at the Planning Commission and our community meetings. And so what our commitment was at the Planning Commission is, as the site plan process goes forward, we will continue to engage the community and bring their input into that site plan. But we're not the actual people doing the site plan. That is the apartment developer that we will ultimately sell this site to.
Thank you.
Further questions, Commissioner?
Susan, did you say that there was an SIP that had been submitted, but you've changed who you were going to use with?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Thomas. There was a site plan that was pre-submitted. We're not working with Avalon Bay anymore. There will be a site plan that is submitted, but we don't know what the mix of that will be.
But the one, you did submit one, but you're not using them anymore.
So it's a pre-submittal for a developer.
A pre-submittal.
And it was a pre-submittal, but since they submitted documents, it goes into a file which the community had access to. Usually we go through the MDP process and we get to this stage and then the SIP is submitted. And with this, there was no SIP formally submitted. It was a pre-submittal for the planning staff and this developer that we're no longer working with to have discussions about, what would this site look like? And what is your process? I know they want to talk to Douglas County a lot of times because in Denver or in other jurisdictions, they can't get their SIPs through in a timely fashion. It takes, in Denver, I know you have heard, it takes 2 or 3 times as long as it used to get anything permitted. That is not the case in Douglas County. And so, they usually want to talk to the local jurisdictions.
So
but there has been no official, there's not a case number, there's no SIP that's been submitted.
But what I heard you say there was a pre-submittal, I heard submittal, so
No,
it's the
it was a
pre-submittal.
And I actually think it was a pre-submittal, but when documents are submitted, regardless, it goes into the case file. It goes into a file.
And I don't know about the file, I just heard you say something, and I wrote down some notes, so that's.
It's, a pre-submittal is a pretty official process. You get a case number. This was not even a pre-submittal. This was a pre-submittal. But the site plan caused a lot of concern with the community.
Thank you, I have no other questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any further questions, Commissioner Layden?
I'll touch on this quickly. I know we've asked a lot, and you all are always so prepared, and it's exciting to have these conversations. But two areas I'm really interested in. One is the access and opportunity for more retail with multifamily, and I'm not sure which that might address when we're talking about the minor development, but I think that's significant if you can touch on that briefly. The second piece is the siting and location of a school. I know for our Board of County Commissioners that represents nearly 400,000 people. That includes kids and students and a lot of parents in our community, no doubt, in Sterling Ranch that that we have heard have been asking for a school for some time. So maybe just an update from you in terms of that site selection process for schools.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Layden. Brock Smithles would like to come up and address those.
Thank you, Commissioner Layden. I believe all of you have been out to Sterling Ranch. We built our first commercial office building, or it was under construction before we had a single home occupied. And we brought the equity and debt to that and took a risk to provide that amenity to our residents. And we certainly want to continue to provide retail amenities. One of the interesting things is like what you see with Monk and Mongoose and Lone Tree. It's integrated with multifamily. A reason for that is oftentimes retail right now is so difficult and expensive to construct that embedding it with multifamily, it cross-subsidizes the retail rents with the multifamily rents. And that's why we are starting with this first, as Susan alluded to in her presentation. There are multiple sites in the Ascent Village Center. The reason we're starting with this one and putting retail in this one is we were able to incent a multifamily developer to build retail as part of their multifamily site.
Great.
And that, I believe, would address 603-801, going to some of the comp plans, that citations that Susan used of an urban development, right? Mixed-use retail is an urban development in an urban area of the comprehensive master plan. As far as schools, I believe our development company was the third largest contributor to the Douglas County school bond election last cycle. We dedicated 12.4 acres to Douglas County school districts all the way back in 2015. That site was pad ready as late as 2017. They have never built a school on it. Nor have they authorized a charter school to go on that site. So we have neither a neighborhood school nor a charter school. We are in the process of working with Douglas County staff on future site dedications within preliminary plan 6. So that there are additional school sites, but ultimately it's up to the Board of Education to either get a bond election passed or to allow charter schools to satisfy the need. And so far they have done neither. So.
Well, thank you for that. It's probably outside of the purview of today's discussion, but I'll just speak for myself that I certainly stand ready. I hope my colleagues will join me in ensuring that we meet the needs of our community. And just having been here for 6 years, that clamor for a school site is a long overdue conversation. And so I don't like telling other jurisdictions what to do, and I won't, but I do believe we have a wonderful relationship with our Board of Education, and my hope is that we can continue to pursue that to ensure that the needs of our citizens are being met. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. That was a comprehensive presentation and excellent questions from the board, so I'm without questions. I think all my questions have been satisfied. Let's move along to public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward? Please step forward, sir, and please approach the podium and give your name and where you're from. And you'll have 3 minutes to share your comments with the board.
See what I can get out in 3 minutes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Stephen Roseman. I live about a block from the MDP property. I hope you can consider my comments with an open mind as they differ remarkably from what you've heard thus far. Applicant noted that to approve the MDP County Subdivision Resolution Section 603A2A.02 requires the board to find that the MDP plat addresses all design elements of Section 404. Section 404 requires, among other things, that the board's review of the MDP subdivision design consider if conflicts between proposed and surrounding land uses are minimized through lot and tract orientation, setbacks, landscaping, or other buffering techniques. Applicant also noted there is no current plan for the plat improvements, and there are no facts in the record showing how the plat proposes to minimize the impact of the 35 dwelling unit per acre project apartment on the neighboring single-family homes. Therefore, as acknowledged in the staff report, the board has no facts to support the required finding that the MDP plat addresses the design elements of Section 404. Approval of the MDP subdivision plat by the board based on the current record before it violates Section 603A.02 and would be unlawful. As noted in Section 7 of the staff report, approval of the plat is proposed to follow a two-step process in which the county would first begin to consider the project's land use conflicts only after MDP subdivision approval. The subdivision resolution expressly requires that it is the public MDP subdivision process and not the subsequent administrative SIP zoning process that must address whether the MDP plat minimizes land use conflicts. Accordingly, the board must either remand or table its approval of the MDP application for now, pending submittal of facts showing how the final MDP proposes to address minimizing the project's land use conflicts as required by Section 603A.02, and a future board hearing, part of the MDP approval process, considering whether the then existing record addresses minimizing those land use conflicts. Thank you for hearing my comments. I've got 28 seconds left if you want to ask me anything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to deliver comments on this matter? Seeing none in the room. Troy, do we have any residents, any citizens to make remote comment?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have several. We're going to start first with Rachel Olis. Rachel, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can, ma'am. Can you give us your name and where you're from?
Sure. My name is Rachel Olis. I am on Ariba Drive, which is abutting to this property. So a couple things I wanted to just touch on of just kind of some things I heard raised by Sterling Ranch Development Company. First thing I wanted to note is that, the signs on that lot have always, at least since I've lived here, have said multifamily going on that lot. I want to note, though, that multifamily is not exclusive to meaning apartments. Multifamily can also mean things such as duplexes and condos, and my kind of concern with all of this is if the intent was for this to always be exclusively apartments, why that land didn't say apartment mixed use and not multifamily, as multifamily includes a wide array of different types of living situations. So I wanted to first just kind of correct that point. And then second, another thing I wanted to bring up, just wanted to, thank you all about proposed condition number 4. I think that will be super helpful for the community. I think one of the biggest concerns, a lot of us feel is that we haven't really been, people might be hearing us, but nobody's actually implementing us and really truly actively listening to us. And so I do think that proposed condition is great. The one concern I do have about, though, with that, as I did hear Brock Smithhill saying the intent is to sell the land to a third-party apartment developer. My concern is that proposal number 4 is essentially going to go out the window if the SIP process is going to be submitted and conducted through a third party. I would ask that maybe we can add some sort of either condition or something that proposal number 4 will also include Sterling Ranch Development Company legitimately taking those concerns to whoever the company is going to be to process the SIP. I just get concerned that it could get rubber stamped by saying, yeah, we hear you, okay, and then nothing happens with it because a third-party company comes in. A couple of other last points so I wrap up my last minute. I think it's, I heard somebody before saying about, retail and integrating with multifamily. I'd say I don't speak on behalf of, my neighbors and stuff, but I can say for myself, from what I've heard from a lot of people, everyone's excited about that. Seems like a really great thing, great place to make community, and I just ask that we also focus on the retail here as well. We do need it. We also need it to entice apartment people to come to the apartment complex as well, because currently there's not a lot here. I do believe this can be a really cool, mixed-use space, and I really do want to, I think the community here wants to work with Sterling Ranch Development Company to do that. I would say that we're not against them. We just want to be heard and want our concerns to also be actually taken seriously. And I think that we can come to some sort of agreement and solution where this apartment complex is not a nuisance to nearby people and can also still fulfill the needs of the community and its workforce. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Troy, do we have someone else?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next will be Jesse Owen. Jesse, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, sir. Can you please give your name again and where you're from?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse Owen, O-W-E-N. I reside at 8670 Ariba that backs to the regional trail. I would first like to thank you all for your service today and hearing us on this matter, and to echo a little bit of what Rachel said, and to at least give my thoughts on my family's perspective on this is, like Rachel said, that we're not against the units. We're against what we have coined this as subject to change, which is not being open and clear with the community on what this was, whether it was signage, whether it was filed on my title, or whatever that looks like. We've gone from 220, 250, 285 to now 450 units. That's a concern for me and my family based on the traffic in the area that's been noted earlier. To my knowledge, the study was done, for that big box and everything, but I have concerns around the parking for visitors, all of these parks that were brought up that are in the area, and walking to those. We've got Waterton, which is an average speed of 65 miles an hour, and people are afraid of and do not want to cross to get to some of these parks. There's no public transportation out here for the amount of units that they are suggesting. As you've seen on a lot of the maps today, this is also the almost center of the community. A lot of things that bring people to Sterling Ranch is the walkability of this community. As you saw at some of those meetings and some of those pictures, we had over 200 people come to that meeting. And when we hear things like we want to sell for max density, as Brock stated earlier, that's difficult. When we also look at documents like page 172 that says it was 232 units at 25,000 square foot of retail, and now we're looking at 450 units at 10,000 square foot of retail. We just want straight answers. We want our voices to be heard. We want action on some of these things and not just, okay, we heard you, but we're going to continue anyway. This is a great community that is a lot of active people that have come even to Colorado for this lifestyle, and we would like to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Troy, do we have anyone else to make comment?
Yes, sir. Brian Pattison, you are next and unmuted. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please give your name and where you're from.
Sure. Brian Pattison. I live on Ariba Drive as well. Following both Jesse and Rachel's comments, first of all, C5 is zoned as the town center. When I drive through certain areas of Douglas County, every town center is filled with retail. There's occasionally some mixed apartments as well, or some townhomes just right next to it, but it is mostly retail. Here, it's seeming as if that the dead center of Sterling Ranch, the actual town center, is just going to be the densest point. And to that end, I would challenge the assertion that they have that Sterling Ranch Development Company has met 603A.01 in conforming with the goals, objectives, and policies of the master plan, as the master plan requires the developer to take input from the community, and that's just not happened. They've taken the input and they've done nothing with it. We've had numerous meetings, yet they have not changed their submittal in the slightest. We are just asking for a cushion for us as residents here. We're not fighting the apartments entirely, so the notion that that's coming across just makes no sense here. We're fighting the fact that this is going to be so dense that it's going to change the character of our neighborhood and what we were sold on. And we really would like it to be brought down. And if Sterling Ranch Development Company were to have been listening to any of the comments, they would have amended their application to fit this, to be a lower standard of units, not the maximum density as Brock alluded to earlier, which would completely decimate the image of Sterling Ranch and the master plan that we bought into going all the way to 2040. All in my comments there. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your comments. Troy, do we have anyone else?
Yes, sir. I've got Katie Frank. Katie, you're unmuted.
2:30.
Go ahead.
I did that on purpose. Hello, my name is Katie Frank, F-R-A-N-K, and I live on Big Thompson Street, right across the street from this filing. What we residents are really pleading for is a lowering of this ceiling of 450 dwelling units, so that way we can exact some kind of reasonable limit early on in this process and avoid the potential of so many units. We would rather you deny this motion so that way we can discuss a plan to have more retail, some restaurants, and literally anything that has more of a town center feel. We don't need a grocery store at this time. We've established that. We've conceded that, but Sterling Ranch Development Company keeps bringing it up, and we wish that they would stop misrepresenting our wants. The town center that we want, including the 250-ish dwelling units, is what was advertised when we bought our home and is what is currently being advertised today. If you go online, the old plan is still up there. This bait and switch and subject to change is what Sterling Ranch Development Company considers transparency. While this filing may be in compliance with the neighborhood plan for dwelling density, something to consider is what is being proposed puts over 60% of the density on this plot if 450 units are built. Once the SIP process gets started, we feel as though the residents' wants are going to be thrown out by the wayside to make way for profit. We will be stuck staring at a 4-story apartment complex less than 120 feet away. I think it's important to also point out that there seems to be an express need for more apartments in this area by Lockheed Martin, as shown by the letter that you have in your packet. However, previous public comment from an employee at Lockheed Martin proves otherwise. 1,500 layoffs, people working from home, and no retail demonstrates no need for this many apartments at this time. Broadstone Apartments is right down the street, and they are currently having trouble in filling up their over 50 available apartments, with many still under construction, many more under construction. The apartments that are proposed to be put on filing 6A have been advertised as being luxury apartments, so I'm not sure how this will help those looking for more affordable housing. Unfortunately, throughout this whole process, we feel as we have expressed our wants and concerns with nothing to show for it by Sterling Ranch Development Company. Residents have no trust in this company, as we feel they will fall short on their promises made to the county, just as they have failed to provide this area of a neighborhood with a functioning town center. We especially have no trust now that they said that they will sell the land and the development will fall on someone else who has made no promise to take into account what residents want. I understand that there's no way to make absolutely everyone happy, but in this case, I think I can argue that 99% of Sterling Ranch residents object to this filing as is, and we would love to manipulate it into something that would better serve this area and realistically comply with the approval criteria 603.10, as many people feel we lack the necessary services in this area, especially with a few resident examples of emergency services taking over 10 minutes to arrive to this neighborhood. Thank you. Happy to.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Troy, do we have anyone else?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no more online comment.
Okay, thank you. Before we bring it back to the board for action, I'd like to direct a question to the county attorney. Jeff, we heard, at least 2 comments there questioning whether the conditions that were agreed to by the applicant, are those conditions that can be passed on as commitments when the property in question is sold to a subsequent developer? Do those conditions still stay in effect, or do they just get thrown out?
They do stay in effect. And as I was sitting here and listening to those comments, I was able to find at least 3 cases that say that revocation of a prior approval of a minor development or approval of a subsequent site improvement plan may be denied or revoked for failure for a subsequent developer to comply with a condition that was approved or agreed to.
Okay, thank you. Turning a question to staff, we heard several public comments pertaining to a maximum density and how it seems like the maximum density of residential units is being pushed here. But is there anything in our approval that mandates a development to that maximum density, or is there still latitude to bring in the additional retail as some of these members of the public have talked about? Jeanette, is that one you'd like to take on for us?
Sure. Obviously, when we get a site improvement plan in, it's kind of like when we have zoning and then have subdivision of fee simple lots, single-family homes, but also when we have a minor development plat like this and it comes in for a site plan, yeah, it was looked at for a certain number of units, 450, and a certain amount of retail. But we have to take a look at that and say, okay, given the approval standards for the SIP, which do include compatibility and consistency with the comp plan, does this work? Is there adequate parking? Is there buffering? What are the impacts to the adjoining neighbors if there are shadows or other things like that? So
It's always a little bit of a push and pull because I think developers hold those entitlements dear, and 450 units is kind of what they're entitled to, but I would say not really. It really depends on the site-specific process, the plan, and things that come out of the plan. We take public comment just like the Board of County Commissioners do through our process, through the administrative process. And so there is back and forth, and we try to balance all the, the applicant's desires, the developer's desires, the zoning, the community, and we may or may not end up at that maximum density. It's not always possible to get there.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas had some very good questions pertaining that kind of went back to the transportation plan. And when we move into the site development plan, that should be the next step that comes before the board. Does that traffic study still pertain, or does that get thrown out after the end of this meeting?
No, but it pertains, and it will get updated depending on what the actual development proposal is. We would probably ask for an update to the traffic study or a traffic letter that compares the differences from what we've looked at most recently to what's being proposed now.
Okay. Those are the questions based on public comments that I heard that seemed to be asking for clarification that we could speak to as a county government. I'd like to give the applicant the opportunity to address public comments that we heard.
I did want to say, too, it's very hard for us to force a mix, though. It's hard for us as staff to say, no, we won't approve this because it doesn't have a retail component to it. That is more challenging from an approval standard perspective, but we do look at density and other things when we review these.
Okay, thank you, Janetta. I do appreciate that. Back to the applicant.
Thank you, Chairman Teal and Commissioners. I'll just address some of the issues that have come up in public comment. We have not changed our MDP because it's pretty basic. I'm asking for 70 acre feet of water. It's a pretty long process to get water to the site. That water can serve 0.14 acre feet per unit if it's multifamily, or 0.75 acre feet for 6,750 square feet of retail. It can be a mix. If we are looking for a mix of multifamily and retail for this lot, we need 70 acre feet of water. And that's what we're asking for. The design element, there was a discussion about 60302 addresses the design element. The design element in the MDP has to do with infrastructure. Is there connectivity of infrastructure, traffic, drainage, sidewalks, pedestrians, walkability? The design elements in the SIP will be different. They'll look at material boards. They may have a shadow study if the staff requires it. So they're different. In the MDP, we have connectivity of infrastructures from filing 4B, from 6A, B, C. Our infrastructure, our drainage, our roads are all connected. The disclosures, the discussion about the big blue signs, the signs did say multifamily. The disclosures, I would like to read what the actual disclosure that was recorded on title said. It says, future assent filing and collectively future assent filings. It is currently contemplated that these future assent filings may be developed to contain multifamily apartment buildings as well as commercial and retail uses, healthcare facilities, and other amenities. So with the 4 lots, this is one of 4 lots, we're hoping for that type of mix to have commercial, retail, and multifamily apartments. We are committed to work with the community. I know probably as we wrap up, I'd like to bring up Brock Smethels to make that commitment again. We are willing to continue to work with the community on the site improvement plan. Parking will be decided during the SIP process. We do have parking on the street throughout Sterling Ranch. I know that many of you have been to the Overlook, our recreation facility. the parking there. People sometimes, when there's events, park on the side streets. We have parking and bicycle lanes, and the road on this lot was designed to be wide enough to take into consideration some parking. This is not the maximum density, and this density can be moved from, because we'll have the water of 70 acre-feet a year, it can be moved from multifamily units into some type of retail. The process is that we sell the lot to a multifamily developer. It is a competitive process. This is pretty close to the entrance of our community, so we want to have the best development we can possibly have. And so that is just what we do. We sell it to a private developer. And as far as sheriff and fire services to the site, there were no negative comments about this proposal in your packet in the referral agencies. In fact, there were no negative comments from any of the referral agencies. And so I think I've addressed some of the issues. We will still be committed. We meet the criteria, and this is the first step of a two-step process. And so, Brock, would you like to come up and just talk a little bit about our commitment to the community and ongoing commitment as we go through this process?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to specifically address 60302, the design elements. A couple of things just to note. When we went through the preliminary plan in filing 4 and then the final plat in filing 4B, we worked with Douglas County staff to expand the right-of-way to be a multifamily classification or roadway. It included an additional 10 feet of right-of-way, 4 feet of pavement, and it has a detached walk and landscaping. So I believe that, contrary to Mr. Roseman's testimony, that we have established that we meet the approval criteria for 603A02. In addition, to address public testimony, as Brett alluded to in the staff report, we committed to have 3 community meetings on the site improvement plan. We ultimately do put this property under contract to another developer, and we will be involved in those community hearings. Certainly will obligate any person we sell to attend those community meetings and take in that feedback. To that point, we are in the process of working with multiple developers to make sure that we can fully, I don't know we'll ever make everyone happy, but to address some of the concerns, particularly with height surrounding the property line, which was, overarching one of the most consistent themes in public testimony. So we do intend to be involved in that process. We do intend to walk a developer that we put this property under contract to through the site improvement plan process and address as many of the public concerns as we can. The reason we didn't reduce the density to Ms. Beckman's point is technically under our zoning, we, under use by right, would be allowed to almost double, if not triple, the density than what we're proposing. As Commissioner Layden knows in Lone Tree, as Commissioner Teal knows in Castle Rock, and as Commissioner Thomas knows in Highlands Ranch, multifamily densities can vary. So, we're not too far away from the promenade, which has a parking structure, probably has the same number of units as what we're proposing here, but the parking structure allows it on a smaller site. This will most likely be surface parked, but we want to have the flexibility so that we're not dictating the total site plan to the private sector to develop this site. I wish our construction defect laws were more conducive to having for sale condos. I think we all do. Hopefully the legislature is successful this year, but we do have some of the more difficult construction defect litigation in the country, and it's one of the reasons why condos aren't built here, to address the concern of why apartments versus for sale housing. And then the final piece is we also want to include mixed-use retail. We see it as a necessary complement to our community, and in our agreements with the various developers that we've looked at selling this to, we've made that a requirement in order to sell the land, that they would do that. So I hope that addresses some of the public comments. We're certainly happy to answer any additional questions the board may have.
Just one additional question for you, Mr. Smethels, from me. I mean, I'm hearing, I heard residents of Sterling Ranch say that it sounds like you guys are set, you're committed to what you're going to do, but that's not what I'm hearing from you. I'm hearing that you're beginning a process on how this site will actually be developed. I mean, it sounds to me like you're still open for ideas, you're talking to different developers, you just haven't gotten a real plan to commit to yet.
Correct. We have not, I think that what you're hearing from the community is they saw this pre-submittal map, basically illustrative, that was submitted. That site plan was never even formally submitted, and we are no longer under contract with that developer or moving forward with them. So they haven't seen another site plan come out. And so there's a lot of concern from the community, understandably, that we haven't listened to any of their comments, we haven't incorporated it in the site plan. In reality, we haven't even had a site plan to submit or had a developer to submit one yet. We wanted to get through this process and incorporate what we've heard from the community into the future site plan, and I hope that they'll see that we did hear them.
Okay, so you're still committed to taking residents' comments who already live there in order to shape the final development on the site?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions from the board for applicant or staff?
I have none.
I have none either.
Okay. Well, what is the pleasure of the board? Do we, what action do we wish to take on this application?
Well, I'm pleased to make a motion to approve Sterling Ranch Filing 6A, First Amendment minor development, because it does meet all of the approval criteria with the 4 conditions as presented, project file SB 2023-060.
Second.
Very well then, there's a motion, a second. Additional discussion.
I will add, I really appreciate all of the citizen input and the comment, the hard work of staff and the applicant in engaging with those we serve. I think those are really relevant comments, and I think hopefully the citizens heard. I referenced some of the letters you provided specifically. My sense is that there's more to come, and that there are a lot of options and opportunities for this developer to continue to engage with the community and make modifications in that site improvement plan process to reflect the needs and services reflected by those comments. So I really have trust in that process. I think the other thing that provides me a measure of comfort, in addition to the approval standards being met, the specific reference from staff that the traffic study has been met, the density is within the amounts permitted and allowed under the original pre-submittal, and that the concerns raised, I believe, by the Planning Commission and throughout our packet are still within the parameters that the developer has been approved to move forward on. So having worked with this developer for a long time, in my 6th year, I do have confidence that there will be robust community engagement and an opportunity to really find the right area of agreement for everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
I think that the one slide that I saw that talked about the site improvement plan reminds us all that that's not where we are right now. And that is the next step that is going to happen, and that's when there will be concrete plans about how high, how many units, and that is the time. So I encourage everyone who spoke to stay engaged. And what the county attorney did reflect is that all of the commitments that are made today, all of the things that are in place today, if we approve this, will travel with whomever buys this. So when this parcel is sold to someone else, when they go to develop that and put in their SIP, their site improvement plan, they're going to have to follow all of the things that have been committed to in today's hearing. Nothing can be changed to exceed what has been approved today. So I think that's important for everyone to realize. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. In my prior municipal service, I was not used to seeing the same development company before us over and over and over again. Mr. Smethels, you mentioned the development of the Encore project with the attached parking structure. Yeah, I think we saw them 3 times, and then They did the project and moved along, and it was a while again before we saw another one. And so with Sterling Ranch development, obviously it is many, many projects within one very large project. And so I completely understand how the residents in Sterling Ranch, as was pointed out, there are already several thousand folks living there. It's in many ways almost a municipal development here within the county. So obviously we have several more steps to go on this location, and then we have more steps to go as Commissioner Beckman pointed out over the 20 years of build-out. And this is but one of those steps. I'm satisfied that we're meeting the design criteria as it is right now. I look forward to seeing that site improvement plan and moving forward, but I speak in favor of the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And there are no opposed, so it is approved, unanimous. Thanks, everybody. This is everything on the agenda for our public hearing and land use meeting today. We will see everyone at the next one. Thank you all very much.